Finally! There's finally a Yakuza game on Nintendo Switch. Well, no. Not that Yakuza. What made you think it was that one? This one is called Fading Afternoon, and it was previously released in September of 2023 on PC, and now it's available on Switch. In this game, you take on the role of Seiji Maruyama, who is a middle-aged Yakuza that was recently released from prison. The story is told throughout various scenes and by interacting with different NPCs, but what makes this feel really unique is how it has multiple endings which come directly as a result of your actions. Now, I'm not going to even try to explain how that functions because, to be honest, I have no idea. The main reason for this is that you're pretty much cut loose to explore the city and its various sections however you see fit. As you play, you will open up new parts of the city you can travel to using the train, but the way you tackle these and progress is left entirely up to you. For some players, this might be frustrating because you really don't feel like you know what your goal is. At least that's how I felt. After exploring a few different parts of the city and eventually beating up some rival gang members, you'll find yourself making some progress. You do eventually start to get some cutscenes, which contain some vague hints, but for the most part, I felt a bit confused on where I should go next or what I should be attempting to do. I think that's the intent and the reason behind having multiple endings, as it doesn't have a very clear linear path for you to follow. It's worth noting that even though this is a pixel art game, it does show some graphic and more mature content. There's depictions of graphic violence, smoking and alcohol use, and even suicides. So if these things impact you in a negative way, then you might want to steer clear, as it might leave you feeling a certain way. Outside of these instances though, this is a really nice looking pixel art game. It's so well drawn that it's enjoyable to just walk through the various parts of the city to take in the sights. And what makes this part of Fading Afternoon even better is the music. The music felt almost atmospheric and appropriate for each of the areas I traveled to. I don't know how to explain it. This part of Fading Afternoon just clicked with me in a way pixel art games usually don't. It was fun to just walk through each area, or a bike, take in the sights and sounds, maybe even smoke the occasional cigarette. Just in the game though, don't do that in real life. Seriously, it's really bad for you, don't do it. Eventually, after having my fill of exploring, I decided it was time to beat up some rival gang members. The combat felt really weird because it's mostly handled with a combination of just two buttons. There's a kick and a punch button, but you could do different attacks based on combinations of these two, or holding to block, then countering, or double tapping to run and tackle. And yeah, there's quite a bit of variety and things to remember for a simple two-button setup. I'm not entirely sure why they chose to do it this way. It made it feel more complex than it needed to be, and it would have felt better to just use more of the face buttons to handle jumping and blocking. I didn't love it, if I'm being honest. I really love my beat-em-ups, and having it designed this way made me feel like I had to really think about what I wanted to do. This obviously resulted in me being a bit too slow in combat and taking a ton more damage than I would have if it controlled like Double Dragon or Streets of Rage, for example. But I will admit, for as much as I felt the control setup was overly complex, it definitely is quite satisfying to pummel dudes and pull off counters and more complex maneuvers. There's also some weapons you can use, like a gun, knives, and a sword. Beating up bad guys will reward you with some cash, which you can use at a wide variety of different establishments. Maybe you want to hit up the bar and grab a few drinks. You can do that. Or maybe you want to save that cash to purchase a new real estate property. You can do that too. This is certainly a sandbox style experience that gives you a lot of options, but it's ultimately up to you to decide how you want to spend your time and money in its world. While exploring around the city, you can also find some fun little diversions in the form of mini games. A couple I found really early on were a target practice range in the pawn shop, where you line up shots at a target with your gun and fire away. And also a baseball pitching machine to try and hit some home runs, I think. It's not really explained, but I think the gold stars are considered home runs, and the silver stars are just hits? I don't know. Like most other aspects of the game, it's not really explained how these function or what their purposes are other than killing some time. Overall, I enjoyed playing Fading Afternoon, but I found it a bit confusing and frustrating at times. It's pretty cryptic with how you progress its story, and other than the comprehensive combat tutorial you get when you engage in combat for the first time, it explains very little. I don't need my hand held throughout a game, but I do appreciate having adequate information to understand both how to play and how to progress. Check this one out if it looked and sounded interesting to you, but steer clear if the issues I brought up or the more mature content and themes are things that would hinder your enjoyment. A special thanks to the publisher for the review copy so I can cover a game I normally wouldn't play. This one was definitely different than what I usually play, and it wasn't really for me since I like my objectives to be more clearly laid out, but I did have some fun with it. I appreciate you watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. But until next time, have a good one.